I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And coming up in the program today, economists dissect landscape and provide remedies to economic challenges Malawi is facing. And that's why in the program, Malawi identifies potential exporters under the African Continental Free Trade Area. We speak to trade authorities. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. The local economy has been faced with many challenges in recent past. Harsh weather conditions coupled with structural challenges, including inconsistencies in policy, has in recent years put Malawi on a tight spot. Key macroeconomic fundamentals, including inflation, the exchange rate, and bank rates, are in red. Now, so are the government budget operations, which are characterized by ever-yawning deficits due to mismatches between revenue and expenditure requirements. To dissect the trend and identify remedies, economic experts gathered in Mangochi last week, where it was concluded that the Malawi economy needs an urgent action. Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs Simplex Cholabanda was part of the conversation, and now on the sidelines, we asked him why the government is unable to tame its insatiable appetite for spending beyond its means.
Well, we've committed to control expenditure, and I think that is our serious commitment. But we need to know that when we are addressing the expenditure side, you need also to look at the demand side. So we have overwhelming demand that are exacerbating, pressure on the physical space because of the social obligations that are more like mandatory for us to do. For instance, much as you want to control expenditure, but you can't do without procurement of medical supplies, for instance. You can't do without procuring strategic commodities like fuel. You can't do without providing responses to emergencies, because these are social obligations that you need to do now in order to get out of the current situation that we are in. So basically what we are also doing is to look at how best we can prioritize expenditure. So math in, math out, Treasury will sit down and look at the priority list, looking at their importance, but also looking at, I think, the needs, and then we could draw a list to say, this we can do now, this we cannot do now. But one thing that I need to share is that we are coming from a history where we borrowed much, some of them for consumption, not necessarily for development, and that as government we've taken a decision not to default. So we are using the resources that we are generating locally to, service our debts, and at the same time also trying to finance developmental activities. You will see that that is a challenge in terms of balancing up. But let me assure Malawians, we are now moving from a hopeless situation to a situation with hope, because we know exactly that we are moving towards making our debt levels sustainable, but at the same time diversifying economic activities so that we can generate more to offset some of the challenges that we are actually facing. So yes, we'll focus much on expenditure controls to make sure that we balance up and that all those insatiable desires of just spending without value for money should not be entertained. And basically that's where we are. In the first place, I need to drive the point that Malawi's inflation is food related. The moment we flood the market with food supplies, then we'll be able to manage the inflation. That's, I think, point number one. Point number two is that we have short supply of FX vis-a-vis a huge demand for imports. So you would see that the imports are eating more of the already available FX, and that is actually creating the imbalance. So for us to addressing these issues, including inflation. Is where we are now focusing much on production, and not only production but also value addition, so that we can increase on export base, and then we'll be able to increase the foreign earnings. Then we can actually turn around the tables. Only if we can be able to produce more, export more, and get more foreign earnings, then we can reverse the current situation. And I think this is the reason why the Treasury and many other key MDAs are working more on economic diversification, so that we explore our economic activities in order for us to get more FX, issues to do with carbon financing, as we said inside there, but also issues to do with the mining development agreements, so that we can be able, on top of the traditional means of getting resources, we need to add more, so we also get more and reverse the trend. And we are actually moving towards that direction. And very soon, you'll see that we'll be able to manage inflation, but also be able to actually provide and build up our FX reserves to a level where people would be now saying, I think our economy has stabilized.
Now, Bertha Chikadza is president for think tank, the Economics Association of Malawi, ECAMA. She feels that much of the country's economic challenges emanate from inconsistencies in policy and contradiction in action between the monetary policy and efforts on the fiscal space.
And so when we sat down, we said, I think we cannot just be talking about the problems, but we have to also bring about solutions. And knowing that solutions to the economy cannot just be about economists. That's why in the conference you've seen even bankers, you've seen people from the climate and disaster risk management, from MAST. We also have others, for example, from Reserve Bank, which is, I think, the first paper, and so many others, I think, in terms of technology, because we know that as we're facing the challenges, they cannot just be corrected by one sector. And so from this conference, we're expecting that we'll find solutions, for example, understanding how climate change has been affecting the economy, not just looking at the disasters that are wrecking, but in terms of, for example, GDP, how much are we losing? And if maybe we can incorporate these climate issues into our, for example, planning in terms of Malawi 2063 and all the development agendas, how much can we achieve? Because sometimes it's like we model without incorporating the data from the climate change or climate risks that the country tends to face. Because had it been that we are doing that, by now we should be somewhere knowing that these are the problems, the challenges that we face, maybe annually in terms of maybe heavy rainfall, cyclones, and so on and so forth. So we're supposed to understand what we should be doing by now. And so those are the things that I think we're going to talk about. And on top of that, we've also come to an understanding that we cannot be talking about this and development and policies without development financing. And this is where the private sector is supposed to collaborate with the public sector. And so that's where the bankers are coming in. How can they supplement, for example, public sector financing in terms of bringing about resilient to the economy, but also financing notable development.
Now, due to the volatility of the economic landscape, Malawi has faced challenges in attracting investment. Domestically, the government's elevated levels of borrowing from the banking sector has crowded out potential private sector investors as the Treasury dominates the banking sector credit space. And other challenges like economic instability and insufficient power supply have affected foreign direct investment inflow. But there is a remedy to this. The European Union, in collaboration with the government of Malawi, are next week hosting the Malawi EU Investment Forum, which represents the largest meeting for investors and businesses aimed at attracting investment. Daunga Sabola caught up with EU officials for a glimpse into the forum.
Ambassador Skinebak, Malawi will be hosting the Malawi EU Investment Summit. Tell us more about this summit.
So, I'm very proud to say that we have managed, together with Malawian authorities, to organize the Malawi EU Investment Forum next week on the 26th to the 28th of November. This is a forum that will bring together European investors, businesses in Malawi to network, to see if they have if there are opportunities and to forge partnerships for the future. You know that the EU is focusing a lot on Malawi's development. We are also focusing on promoting our values and interests. But in particular, in this case, the interests between the EU and Malawi are coinciding. We want the same thing. We want prosperity, we want a development which is business and investment-led growth. Hopefully the investment forum can contribute to that also.
And others would ask to say, what led to the coming up of this investment forum?
In fact, it was our last partnership dialogue. You know, between the government of Malawi and the EU, we have twice a year we have a dialogue. And there it was clear we want this business and investment-led growth, and to do that there are a number of adjustments that needs to be made. We need to facilitate access to finance in Malawi. There are a number of adjustments that should be done to the legal framework. There are the issue of forex that we all know too well. There are the energy issues. There are a number of challenges. One of them is also connectivity. And the fact that Malawi goes under the radar in spite of the considerable potential in several sectors, potential in renewable energy, potential certainly in agriculture if productions can be scaled up, and potential in tourism. And it was in the context of our last partnership dialogue that we committed, together with Malawi government, to organize such a forum if there was interest. And interest there is. We will have over 300 participants during the 3 days that we have the forum.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the sectors, what are the key sectors that this forum is targeting, and why these sectors?
So, the key sectors are renewable energy, it's sustainable agriculture, and it's tourism. So as I mentioned before, part of the reason for the choice is the potential in these sectors. We also considered mining, of course, to have the forum coincide with the ATM strategy, the agriculture, tourism and mining strategy. But we didn't do it because now for mining to flourish, there is a need for energy. And therefore we thought, okay, this time around is the first one ever EU-Malawi or Malawi-EU Investment Forum. Let's focus on the fundamentals. So this is what we are doing. We know there's potential, we know there's interest, and we know that these sectors are absolutely pivotal for development and growth in Malawi.
And talking of opportunities, what opportunities do you think this forum will bring to the EU?
For EU investors, the investors are what they are. They look for profit, of course. That's their primary target. So everything will depend on the pitch that Malawi companies and authorities can do during the investment forum. I'm very excited. I've had a small taster here and there. I've had impressions. I know that there are some very interesting offers that will be tabled, but I'm not in a position yet to promise you any signed contracts.
Okay. And this is not the first investment forum that Malawians have engaged in. How does a Malawian businessman prepare for such a unique opportunity?
So I'm not a businessman, nor am I Malawian, but I can tell you that I hope that our colleagues in Malawi government with the MITC, that they can help prepping the Malawian business environment to come up with interesting offers, because that is, you need to sell at an investment forum. You need to sell your idea, your concept, and maybe your experiences in order to convince European investors that here they can find a good return on their investment, because that's what it's all about.
In talking about the EU, is the EU implementing any programs that will support investment in Malawi?
Yes, so the EU is gradually moving away from the classical donor beneficiary logic where we simply give a grant. And so that means that we are now giving budget support to government, but it also means that we are attributing a good deal of our funds towards leveraging investments, for guarantees, and for facilitating access to finance. We also have programs that support the entrepreneurship and youth. So we have a series of programs that support. But this time it's not about support, it's about helping Malawi to help itself.
Mm-hmm. And finally, how will the Global Gateway support trade and investment in Malawi?
So Global Gateway is the European response to the new global situation, to the increased competitiveness for grants, for the increased competitiveness that we see from our strategic rivals, and it's a way of fostering a different kind of development. So Global Gateway is mobilizing not only investments from Team Europe, from European member states, but also from private sector businesses all over Europe, as well as from development banks. The whole concept of Global Gateway is to mobilize these different sources of financing, to contribute to a higher degree of connectivity, and to create transformational change through investments of this mix of sectors.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Now joining me is the CEO of the Malawi Investment and Trade Center. Looking at the forum that's coming next week, what opportunities are there for Malawi in such a unique forum?
Well, indeed, it's a great opportunity to have this forum next week. We are so excited that it's coming here to Malawi, and we've got so many people coming in from different countries, especially from the EU. We've got almost over 70 people coming in from outside Malawi. But coming to your question exactly, this will be a chance for Malawian businessmen to interact, collaborate with those businessmen who are coming in from the EU, and some from even outside the EU, within the region, outside the EU, different countries, so that they can discuss chances of partnership, joint ventures, investing together. We are always excited to have foreign direct investment coming in. But it's more exciting when the foreign direct investment comes in and partners with Malawians. We want Malawians to be involved in the business. We want Malawians to be part of taking the country somewhere in line with the Malawi 2063. And apart from the investment, I also look at this forum as a chance for Malawian businessmen to showcase some of their products and find markets. That some of these people will be so interested to see what is Malawi producing, what is available in Malawi. And then we might have a chance to crack some deals where Malawian products will be available in different supermarkets.
About 22 companies in Malawi have been engaged to leverage opportunities and commence trading under the Guided Trade Initiative within the African Continental Free Trade Area market. Malawi ratified the African Continental Free Trade Area in January 2021, creating a free trade arrangement among African countries. It is aimed at facilitating intra-African trade and eliminating tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Earlier this year, the Minister of Trade and Industry indicated that Malawi will start trading under the GTI from October 2024, but the dates were shifted to next month. Minister of Trade, Chief Trade in Services Officer Eslon Chirambo said 6 companies, Presken Limited, H. Adams, Mzuzu Coffee, Temwanana Agrofoods, ADMAC, and DEK Engineering and Electrical Contractor Private Limited are being prioritized, having attended the GTI's fair. We have the whole story in this report.
Malawi signed the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement in March 2018 and ratified the same in January 2021, creating a trade arrangement among African countries aimed at facilitating intra-African trade by eliminating tariffs and non-tariff barriers. Chief Trade in Services Officer at the Ministry of Trade, Eslon Chirambo, disclosed that 6 companies are currently being prioritized. Having expressed interest upon engagement, the companies are Presken Limited, H. Adams, Mzuzu Coffee, Temwanani Agro-Foods, Admark, and Dake Engineering and Electrical Contractor Private Limited.
Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is new, and even negotiations have recently concluded in some of the first phases. As such, implementation is now only, I can say, about to take off. However, it's to be done through, first of all, the process of what we call guided trade initiative. So what Malawi, especially the Ministry of Trade and Industry, is doing is to identify export-ready firms that should be supported on the GTI process. Not necessarily it's about the products that the companies have. However, at the end of the day, depending on the markets that they have identified, we'll see whether those products are on the AFTA, like they have been put on the tariff reduction list or not, because not each and every product that a company or a country produces is subject to tariff reductions. It depends on what was negotiated. So once the products that the companies have been identified, is when we'll actually see on the other side whether there's a preferential treatment under the AFTA.
Meanwhile, Deborah Ndalama Mtawali, a lecturer in language rights and linguistics at Mzuzu University, emphasized the importance of translating trade policies and frameworks into local languages for better comprehension among business stakeholders and the general public.
Okay, so for this particular training, my role is a facilitator in translation. Basically, the understanding is that because we're dealing with trade, it is very important for people to access the information in the local languages, specifically Chichewa. So I am facilitating journalists, assisting them in how well they can report on trade-related issues. When we talk about trade, trade is cross-cutting. So essentially, so many people are involved. The whole process from production all the way to distribution, importing, exporting, there are so many parties involved. So in order to reach out to all these various sectors of people, it is important that information is accessible in the local languages. I'll give a good example for people that are producing, say, garlic, or they're producing sweet potatoes and they'd like to export that. They need to be able to understand what regulations are there in order for them to be able to sell the produce to other countries. At the same time, they also need to know the regional preferences, what produce is selling at what prices, so that they are guided when they actually do the production itself. And also people that would like to buy, say, middlemen, exporters, importers, they also need that information. So when that information is available in the local languages, it helps that everyone is blessed at an advantage, essentially elevating them as individuals as well as the country.
Earlier, the ministry had indicated that Malawi will start trading under the Guided Trade Initiative from October, latest being December 2024. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area market represents the largest single market after World Trade Organization, encompassing 55 member countries and boasting a population of 1.3 billion people with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. This represents an ideal opportunity for countries like Malawi to expand their market access and enhance trade activities.
Now, in other business news, insurance penetration in Malawi has been clawing at a snail's pace, despite the importance that insurance poses to individuals, firms, and the entire role the insurance sector plays to the local economy. For example, figures from the Insurance Association of Malawi, a body of insurance companies in the country, show that between 2014 and 2024, the sector grew with only 2 percentage points, from 2% to 4%. Among other interventions, the industry is advocating digital services adoption. What would it take? This is a question Benedetta Mia attempts in this report.
Executive Secretary at the Insurance Association of Malawi, Darius Kuyokwa, highlighted how the digital motor vehicle insurance system enhances accessibility for insurance companies, brokers and agents to sell policies online, thus making it easier for Malawians to access these services. The industry launched the digital insurance system on October 10, 2023, marking the transition from manual and pre-printed motor vehicle insurance certificates, which will be fully phased out by December 31, 2024. Speaking at a recent engagement session with stakeholders including traffic police officers and media in Blantyre, Kuyokwa said this will significantly boost insurance penetration in Malawi, which stands at approximately 1.9%, a modest increase from 1.4% recorded in 2018.
Well, this DMFIC is very beneficial to the country because at the first time we talk about the economy, that as you're aware that we are having issues of forex. So this one is going to make it easier for the insurance companies not to go for issues of forex, but at the same time to purchase this online. And as a nation, we are also moving from manual because we've seen that we are now aligning ourselves to the 2063 agenda, whereby the government is asking companies to digitalize their systems. Where to the vehicle owners, it's beneficial because they are now going to access these certificates online. They will not be required to go to the insurance companies and access this. So it's like it will reduce the cost of them moving up and down to get this certificate, but at the same time it's efficient. Well, in terms of the insurance penetration, we believe that our numbers will increase because now the people that are going to be acquiring this will not be going up to the insurance companies. They'll be coming straight to, they'll be accessing it in their houses. At the same time, making it easier for any person to access it, even in the rural areas. They will not come to urban areas to get it. So our numbers in terms of penetration will increase.
Meanwhile, Jonathan Chitedze, Road Traffic Inspector responsible for South-East Region, commended the system for enhancing efficiency in motor insurance verification.
I think this system is very vital in a sense that when you go on the road nowadays, we just go straight and have that application instead of going on the windscreen of the particular motor vehicle to see its validity and the expiry date of that insurance of motor vehicles. So it is very easy for us to do our operation on a daily basis. Among other things, I think we'll be able to conduct this sensitization so that the public should be aware of what we have discussed today.
Throughout the transition period, both certificate types are being issued. However, as of January 1st, 2025, the association will cease the use of printed certificates, although existing pre-printed documents will remain valid until December 31st, 2024. Motorists have since been urged to visit their insurance providers to change their old certificates to the digital format before the deadline.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Thanks for watching, but always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.